Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more slug testing, and today we've got another very interesting combination to try out. Definitely curious to see what it does, because some other pretty similar loads to this particular shell have been pretty hit or miss in our testing. So I guess we'll see what these can do, and hopefully they're better than some of the previous results that we've seen. But for the slugs we've got today, I brought out some more 410 loads. These ones are the Federal Power-Shok 410 slugs. They are a 2.5 inch, 1/4 ounce rifled slug at about 1775 feet per second. I don't know that we've tried any 2.5 inch yet. I think we did test some of these Federal Power-Shoks a long time ago on the channel, just briefly, but I don't think it was any kind of in-depth testing like we do now anyway. So we'll see what these can do. Since some of the other 410 rifled slugs we've tried have been kind of all over the place, hopefully these ones are a little better. As for the shotgun we're going to put them through, I brought out my Mossberg 500 410, got a 24 inch barrel on it, and we've got an improved cylinder in the gun, which is what the vast majority of rifled slugs suggest. So that's what we're going with. Up on top is a pretty basic Simmons Pro Target red dot, but it gets the job done for a setup like this. And we know this combo is capable of some pretty decent results with some Brennicky loads, but rifled slugs have struggled a little bit so far. So hopefully that trend kind of changes today with these 2.5 inch Federals. But as for our test today, we're going to run it the same as we kind of usually do when it comes to 410 slugs in particular. We're going to shoot 2 groups, all the shots through the chronograph as well. One group at 25 yards and another at 50 yards. Since that is kind of the working range of a 410 slug, is 50 yards and in, especially in a practical hunting scenario. You're probably going to want to be inside of 50 yards. And I do have some water jugs lined up downrange as well here, that after we get our accuracy, we can shoot around into those and see what kind of penetration and energy dump we actually have. When it comes to a deer hunting situation in particular, I don't love 410 rifled slugs for that application because they tend to kind of just come apart on impact, usually, at least from my experience and my testing. So that's where the Brennicky slugs come into play, and those I would legitimately deer hunt with. But I guess we'll see what happens. These Federals could always surprise us, but we'll just see what they do when we get there. So first up, I'm going to get you guys a view of that 25 and 50 yard target. We'll shoot some groups. We may not hit dead center because this is not the slug I'm zeroed with, but if we can hold a group on the actual paper, that's probably going to be better than some other rifled slugs we've tested from 410. So let's start there and see what we get. Okay, so we'll run through our chronograph velocities real quick before we look at our target. My actual chrono camera died earlier, so I didn't have a live video of the chrono numbers for you guys, but we'll run through them right here so you can see. Boss claim is 1775. We have a 24 inch barrel, and I believe we were seeing a little bit over that claim. And that seems to kind of be a little bit of a trend when it comes to rifled slugs from my particular Mossberg here. A little bit above their claim. But we had 1776, 1783, 1797, 1883, 1919, 1765, and 1829. So I definitely think we had 2 that were definitely higher than the rest. We had a 1900 number and a high 1800 number. The rest were high 17s or low 18s, so maybe a little bit of inconsistency there, and we might have seen that show up a little bit on the target as well. But the average velocity was 1821. If we include those higher numbers, that's still a little bit higher than their boss claim. Even if we would have got rid of those couple higher numbers, we still would have been seeing a little bit higher than that 1775 they're saying we should be. But still, right about 1800 or so on average, I would say. That's about normal for a 410 slug. And here are the energy numbers, so you guys can get a reference as to what we're pushing. It's not anything fantastic, but it is enough for a 410 slug to do the job. So let's look at our target and see if the accuracy was good enough to get the job done. Okay, so here's our target, and we definitely see some pretty interesting results here. We'll start with our 25-yard group, that being these 3 bullet holes right down here, as well as this one way up here at the very top. Out of the first 3 shots we took at 25, we had 2 right down here side by side, and we flung one way up here in the top in no man's land. So I decided, since I have a couple extra of these slugs out here with me today, we'll take a 4th shot, because obviously that was a major flyer. 410 is not difficult to shoot. I'm very confident with that gun, so I know it wasn't me jumping the trigger, especially not that bad at 25 yards. So something went way awry there, and I think that might have been one of our high velocity readings. So the 4th shot I took brought us right back down here and put it with the other 2 we originally had. So if we're seeing consistent results, I would say these 3 shots right here are our legitimate group, at least for potential anyway. And they gave us 1.46 inches of spread, and that is from center to center on the farthest 2 bullet holes across right there. Obviously, it would be way more if we measured up to there. These are 12-inch targets, so that would probably be 13 or 14 inches from all the way down here to all the way up there. So already, on one hand, it is a drastic improvement over what we've seen from other rifled slugs through that same setup. But on the other hand, at 25 yards, it's not overly impressive for accuracy, and we're already seeing some inconsistencies coming into play. And that trend continued to 50 yards, because at 50, I was still aiming for this left target. However, we hit 1 here, we hit 1 over here on the right, and we hit 1 right down here on the edge. So definitely not at all what I was hoping to see. If we're getting 1.5 inches roughly at 25, I was hoping to see the 3 to 4 inch range at most at 50, and that's not at all what we saw. It's right about 8 inches from this bottom bullet hole up to this right one over here, and it's about 7.5 the other way between these 2. So I mean, on one hand, it's consistent. It didn't throw one way out necessarily. If we drew a circle, it would be kind of consistent right there for an 8-inch circle, but they definitely opened it way up somewhere between 25 and 50, that's for sure. So probably 25 to 30 yards is about realistic limit for these, and for a rifled 410 slug, that's probably decently realistic in the first place. But I don't love the inconsistent flyers and stuff, that's for sure. The velocities, sometimes consistent, and then you'll have a pretty high reading. So I don't know that they're overly precise in their loading of these, that's for sure. So even at 25 yards, seeing that we threw that flyer way up at the top, I don't know that I would really trust these just yet without doing a bunch more testing. So definitely a little bit of inconsistencies coming into play as far as accuracy goes. But now let's see what we can actually do for some penetration testing. I've got 6 1-gallon water jugs lined up behind me here. I put the odd jug as jug number 3. If I'm going to deer hunt with these, I want to reliably see at least 3 jugs of penetration without the slug coming to pieces. And that's the big issue with 410 rifled slugs in particular. From my testing and from a lot of other people's testing, they usually just kind of grenade themselves on impact. Some of them can kind of hold together at a little bit more moderate ranges, you know, 20 plus yards, but most of the time they still come apart, especially if you clip a rib or something like that going into an actual animal. They just don't hold together well. A 1/4 ounce of lead that is pretty much hollow from the back end flattens out immediately. So we'll see what we can get. I'm going to step it back here to about 20 yards. As long as we get a consistent slug, it seems like 20 yards is going to be pretty realistic, and we'll see what happens. If I had to take a bet right now, we're going to pretty much grenade jug number 1 and stop within jug number 2. If we hold together and make it any farther than that, then I'll be thoroughly surprised. So I'm going to walk it back here to 20 yards, and we'll put a shot through these jugs and just see what happens, even if it isn't a perfect representation for an actual tissue type material. So for the velocity reading on that slug, we had 1759. So we can actually calculate some energy based on that number for this exact shot. So for this particular shot, doing some calculations after the fact here, we had an energy of 749 foot-pounds. This chronograph was probably 5 yards in front of the muzzle or so maybe not quite actual muzzle velocity, but that's pretty close. Either way, 749 is in the typical ballpark for a 410 slug. But as for our jugs over here, I think we saw exactly what I thought we would. Jug number 1 is pretty much completely destroyed down here. We had a good centered up hit and it completely blew the jug open. So good initial energy dump. But looking here at the rest, we have jugs number 3 through 6 still sitting there, completely untouched. There's nothing hitting jug number 3. There is the little gas check piece sitting there on the actual table, but this is jug number 2. We had an entry, a little bit left, but still pretty good in center there. It's steady leaking water out of it. But if I swing the jug around here, we do not have any sort of exit on there. So I'm willing to bet if I dump this jug out, we're going to have a slug or what's left of a slug in there. So let's see here what we've got. And there definitely is something in there. And there it is. Looks like we have one big giant flat piece that's very, very thin. It almost came completely to pieces, and we definitely did recover a couple small chunks of lead as well. I mean, this is right on the ragged edge of completely coming apart. The edge started to unravel here. I bet if I was any closer than 20 yards, if I was at 10 or 15, that would have completely come apart. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, how some of these slugs do hold together a little bit once you get out to moderate ranges. But I mean, you saw 25 yards or so is probably about the limit for these if you're going to hunt with them. And if you're deer hunting with it, and if you hit a rib or something, it's going to smash this even different than what this water did. And there's a really good chance it's going to come completely apart because that is super, super thin and super flat. You would have tremendous energy dump right immediately as it entered, but how consistent and reliable for penetration are you going to be, especially since you just got into jug number 2 and that was about it? That's going to be the big question. So we'll take this inside to the bench, measure everything and weigh everything, and I guess we'll see from there based on your personal opinion about it. Okay, here's what we recovered. Get you guys a little better look at it. Big flat piece of lead and a couple tiny little specks of it as well. Definitely made a big difference considering this is what one of the slugs typically looks like that I cut out of another one of those Federal shells. Big difference there, that's for sure. You can see that hollow point cavity as well as the big hollow cavity in the back of them. So this thing just flattens out because there's no actual meat in the middle of it. But if we take and put everything that we recovered on the scale, we get 90.2 grains. Definitely lost some weight there, that's for sure. Considering that the unfired slug is 109.2, which is pretty much right on the money for a quarter ounce. 109 point something grains, I believe, is what a quarter ounce is. So definitely lost some weight for sure. But as far as dimensions go, we had 0.672 for the narrow direction, and we opened it up all the way out to 1.22 if we want to include that big long tagged end off of it there as well, the other direction. So it expanded pretty good, considering that the unfired slug is 0.395. So actually a little bit undersized for bore diameter as well, being that we're supposed to be at 0.410. And here is also the little gas seal base wad piece that we found from sitting under that slug as well. But that's everything we recovered right there. So pretty interesting to see the difference between fired and unfired for sure. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about these results right there? Right off the bat, at 25 yards, we definitely saw quite a bit of improvement over some other rifled slugs we've tested in 410 when it comes to accuracy, but clearly there was some inconsistency coming into play there, and probably 25 yards, maybe 30 is about the reliable range of these anyway. So maybe a little hit or miss there. Not anything impressive once you get past 25 yards for sure. As far as penetration goes, it did pretty much exactly what I thought it would. 2 jugs worth of penetration. Is it good enough to kill a deer? Yes, it would do the job. I know there's plenty of deer that have been taken with these slugs before, but I think you're probably right on the ragged edge of consistency. If you're a little farther range and your gun and your setup can actually perform and hold a good group with these out at a little longer range, you may get a little better penetration if the slug holds together, but you're going to be dropping energy pretty quick as well. So it's a trade-off. Closer ranges, the slugs are probably going to start coming apart on you pretty quick. Longer ranges, you might get a little more penetration, but it's going to be less energy. So still, that's why if I'm going to deer hunt with a 410 slug, which isn't the ultimate deer hunting shotgun load in the first place, I'm going to be running a Brennecke load that I know is going to hold together and I know is going to penetrate well. It's not to say these can't do it, because they absolutely can, but that's my personal preference anyway. So I guess leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested any of these 2.5-inch Federal several 410 slugs? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is this a combo you would ever hunt with? Would you trust it enough to do that? Have you done it before? Or is that just a combo you would probably just run out on the range for fun purposes? And maybe what other testing do you want to see me do with either these slugs or any other 410 slug loads? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.